right, we should be recording now.
Heary, 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 the Parks Committee for January 12th, 2022, our first New Year meeting. Happy New Year, everybody. Roll call. Alder Weary.
Present.
Alder Gerlach.
Present.
Alder Burnett. You're here? I didn't hear.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And the chair, of course, is here. So we're all here. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. I'll take a motion to approve our agenda.
Move to
moved.
approve the agenda.
Second.
A motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Brunette. Any changes anyone wants to make? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Our agenda is approved. I'll take a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Brunette to approve, seconded by Alder Gerlach. Any corrections or anything that anyone needs to make? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We have our minutes and our seconds, and the hours roll on. Are we ready to get on to regular business?
Yes.
Okay, regular business. Item 1, consideration with possible action on the request by TDS Metrocom LLC to approve a 15 by 20 foot utility easement at Haynisra Park. Staff.
So TDS Metrocom is in the process of upgrading a large amount of buried infrastructure throughout the entire city of Green Bay. So wherever possible, they're going to be running utilities within the existing right-of-way utility easement. So in this particular situation, they're running the bulk of the underground utilities within the South Point Road right-of-way, but they need to install an above-ground cabinet, and that cabinet won't fit within the existing utility easement because they typically don't like anything underneath those cabinets. And so what they're requesting is a 15 by 20 foot easement just adjacent to the right-of-way, specifically for the installation of an above-ground cabinet. So if approved, that will be located in the far northeast corner of the park in between the existing parking lot and South Point Road. So if you look at the agenda packet, there are some maps showing where those easement would be located, along with the easement language itself is included there. So there's an existing above-ground AT&T utility cabinet located approximately 30 feet north of this proposed easement. And that easement is located on school district property. So you will see that on one of the attachments where that other easement is, but there'll be two cabinets kind of in close proximity to each other. They're different utility companies though. So the law department did work with TDS Metrocom to draft the easement that's attached to the agenda packet. And both the Department of Public Works and our department, the Parks Department, reviewed the easement, and we are supportive of this request. So I'd recommend approval. But one thing I do want to mention in addition to that is, as I mentioned earlier, TDS Metrocom will be installing new utilities throughout the entire city. So there likely will be other locations within the parks where they will propose similar above-ground cabinets. So right now, they haven't given me a quantity. They're still in kind of the engineering phase, but they told me that there will for sure be a few more requests down the road to install similar cabinets in other parks. And so what we will do is we'll bring those individual requests forward as they're presented to us. So right now, we're just approving the one easement, and if any more come forward, we'll let you know.
Alder Burnett?
Dr. Ditchite, did they state who would be doing the contracting work, or did they send a picture of what the above ground cabinet would look like?
They did send I believe, I'm just rethinking here. They did not send a picture of the cabinet, but I can request a picture and get that to you by council. And what was your other question? I apologize.
Oh, who's the contractor that would be doing the work for TDS?
Yeah, and I don't know if they have that figured out yet, because until they have the easement secured, the engineering isn't finalized yet. So I'm not sure if they hired a contractor for this particular installation.
Yeah, and that's a fair point, and I'm okay with that. I just want the committee to be aware that there is a lot of this sort of infrastructure which will continue, which is a good thing, obviously a positive for the city. But there had been a situation in this general neighborhood. Now, this is my district, Henesra, as you know, but close to Henesra, there were some issues with a contractor for a utility. I don't recall the utility, but similar. And the neighbors in that area were very concerned about the above ground cabinets. And rightly so, these things are not good to look at in a lot of cases. They're often installed, they're sometimes neglected. And we're going to put something or allow something to go at Henesra, which is a beautiful park, a nature park. If we have a utility closet there that's above grade and it's not properly installed, or it's an eyesore, it doesn't get maintained, we have these issues that have come up and will continue to come up, in my opinion, as more and more of this is done in the city, especially above ground. Now, in that situation, the utility company did do right, and they listened to the neighbors and the concerns, and they managed to find a way to bury the utility underground, which was a good compromise. But that's not always going to be the case, especially if they're trying to cut costs. So I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I'm a little hesitant to say, yes, I'm on board with it if I don't know who the contractor is, what their track record is, and if they'll be response to fixing eyesores if they were to arise in the future. So again, just big picture stuff. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but we're going to have a lot of this sort of thing come up in the future.
And you are correct. There are going to be other locations where similar cabinets will be proposed. I don't know the size of the proposed cabinet, but it's not a little cabinet. I mean, this is going to be a larger one, and they are going to be scattered throughout the city. And from what they told me, I don't think there's a possibility to bury these cabinets. They have to be above ground. In this situation, it is in kind of an inconspicuous area, kind of away from the park itself. The parking lot is a buffer between the park and where this cabinet is going to be located. But if you have additional concerns, we could, propose to hold this item and request at the next Parks Committee that a representative from the utility attend the meeting and answer your questions directly.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a good response. According to Director Grenier, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, but the state of Wisconsin, or perhaps the federal government, I don't know which level of government, but higher levels of government have given quite a bit of leeway and authority. I shouldn't say authority, but they've kind of given a lot of leeway to these utility companies, because we know that in order to put infrastructure, especially high-speed internet, a lot of times you have to do these sorts of things. So I don't even know what the city of Green Bay could do. I mean, we perhaps object, but in the end, if the state and federal governments give a lot of authority to these utility companies to do this sort of work, we might be chasing our tail a bit. So I think, Director Ditchite, as long as you can, forward my concerns to the utility company, which I think are rightful concerns that any alder should have in their district, especially a park, and just give me the pictures and just kind of allay my concerns prior to the full council meeting. I don't think we need to hold it.
Okay.
And especially with Henesra Park, that was a big issue a year ago. So the fact to do is, approve something without proper due diligence on behalf of my constituents. So.
And what I've been told by the utility company is, they always reach out to municipalities first when they're looking at their easements. If they're not able to work out an easement with an existing park location or city location, then they reach out to private individuals and request easements on private property. So if that would be the next step that they would look at if we don't approve these type of easements.
Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair. It's a good discussion. I was wondering, in fact, some of the alders might be able to fill in on this. If you remember over time, the local government, our government has lost some control to handle certain things. The state has taken over CBRFs and cell towers and sex offender things. There's just a number of things and I'm just wondering if something like this is a concern. I know Alder Brunette brought that up, but I'm just wondering, like you said, how much control do we really have over? So that's kind of my general question. If anybody can answer that, that'd be great.
Well, I think actually Alder, the director answered it. I mean, if the easement's within our purview. So we can deny the easement, but I don't think we're going to end up stopping this progress. They'll just go to private properties. So actually, I think maybe we might have some more leverage if we grant the easement, and then we can ask them, and it was just going to be my question is, would they be amenable to, depending upon is it a box and where it's placed and everything, maybe we could get the Public Arts Commission involved and, do something fun and creative with these things, or something like that.
Well, a good point was made that, Director Ditchite said these boxes are going to be above ground. If you could bury it somehow, it'd be great, I think. But, maybe that's just not the fact that we can't do that. So considering what we can control or what we can't control, I just think it's that we listen to that. And I appreciate, how we're going about it right now. So we'll just see how it pans out. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Alder Dorf.
Thank you. So, I like what you just said, Alder Scannell, and thinking about the art projects maybe. I mean, is this something where they could put a mural, or how about some shrubbery? Everybody likes shrubbery, and maybe we could put some tree around it and, make it kind of a more of attractive thing than just a box. I don't really know what these boxes exactly look like, but I bet you we could come up with some ideas, especially our park guys. They know plants, and I think they could probably figure something out. Thank you.
Alder Gerlach.
I have no idea how big this is, but I don't think it's big enough to put a mural on it as the chair of the Public Arts Commission.
Well, maybe not a mural, maybe something else. But
But-
maybe art pieces around it, or who knows?
I would just say that, first of all, we have to find out the size of it. Because, like all down Manitowoc Road, which is in my district, we have these little posts, that stick up. And they're like, 6 inches by 6 inches. And they're like, 3 feet tall. And maybe we're talking about something like that. Personally, I would, no, Dan says no.
These are not the posts. This is a cabinet.
Okay, so do you have any idea how big it is?
No, I would be guessing.
Okay. Anyway, I would just say that I would rather see it on park property, on the edge like this, where it's not interfering with anything, where we know the park staff is going to have to maintain it, rather than see this on somebody's private property where they have to mow around it. I've seen them knocked over by lawnmowers and everything. I think this seems like a pretty easy thing to approve, and I would be in favor of it. I do appreciate Alder Brunette's concerns, but I suspect it's going to work out fine in the park.
Anyone else? I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Gerlach.
Second.
Second by Alder Brunette. Any further discussion?
I think Alder Weary might have seconded that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear him at all.
Oh.
Well, I can hear you now. You're good. You're good. Okay, Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Weary. I stand corrected. Never mind. Forget it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
And I will get your questions answered prior to council and try to get you a picture of what the cabinet would look like.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Can we all get a picture of the cabinet?
Yes,
Sam?
I will send it to all committee members.
Yeah, especially Alder Gerlach. She, Arts Commissioner there, chair, she may. Are we ready for 2?
Yes.
Ready for 2. There we go. Consideration with possible action on modifying the open park hours at Ken Ewers Park. Staff.
So as many of you know, Ken Ewers Park is located at the north end of Military Avenue in a pretty remote area of the city. It's adjacent to a very industrial location next to the city's yard waste facility and then the county dump area. So since this is in such a secluded part of the city, there's been some issues with crime in the park over the years. So in addition, there is no electric running to the park currently, so there's not adequate lighting at night to assist with crime prevention in the night hours. So the police department contacted the city or the Parks Department and requested that we install an entrance gate to control access in the off hours, and then officially modify the hours of operations to the park to be from dusk till dawn. So we will be moving ahead with building an entrance gate, and we'll work with Public Works in the county to make sure that it's done to specification and code and everybody can get access into it whenever they need to operate the facilities that are out there. We do have similar entrance gates at the Wildlife Sanctuary, at Finger Road Ball Field Complex, and also at the Arnie Wolf Sports Complex. So this isn't the first park that we're gating at night. It's just going to be another one we're adding to the list. Because I guess as we're looking at responding to this request, the Parks Department is really in support of this request. To modify the hours of operation or hours that were open at the park, because there is no lighting out there. At night, there really is no reason to be out there because you can't view the wildlife when it's dark out. So there are a lot of other parks in the city that residents can go to after darks if they so choose. So we would be in support of this. So in order to actually amend the park hours, though, we would have to make a change to the city ordinance. So in Chapter 28, Section 28-4, titled Conduct in Parks and Greenways, will have to be modified, that section. So the ordinance currently states that no person shall loiter, idle, or remain in a city park between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So according to that, all parks are open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Unless they're attending a park department-sponsored event or activity. So in this situation, we would have to modify the ordinance specific to this one park and say for this one park, it would be only open from dusk till dawn. And so if you're in support of this, I would recommend a motion that you approve the change in the hours at Ken Ewers Natural Area from dusk till dawn, and direct staff to modify the ordinance accordingly and bring it back for final approval. Now, if you do, I mean, obviously we can have some discussion on this. If you do agree with that proposed motion, you would have 2 options for bringing the proposed ordinance changes forward. We can just bring it back to Parks Committee, and you can actually review the changes to the ordinance at Parks Committee. Or the other option is if you just give staff the approval to make the change to the ordinance, we can just bring it directly to the city council, and it can go through the 2 readings that it would have to go through, and the ordinance change would not have to come back to the Parks Committee. But that would be your decision. So I guess that being said, I'll open it up for questions. And
Well, let's go to Lindsay Mather, Attorney Mather first, and then Alder Burnett, and then Alder Stoyer.
Hi everyone, I apologize for coming to you from my couch, but I sprained my ankle, so I have to sit with my leg up. Or did I? No, I'm just kidding. So the only change that I would make to that is we can't have a requirement like dusk till dawn. We need to pick actual hours. And so the law department's fine with amending the hours and creating this exception, but dusk till dawn is just, it's almost impossible to enforce. Okay. Because if our municipal prosecutor, Attorney Mays, is ever, enforcing a ticket for being in the park after hours or whatever, and somebody's like, well, dusk was actually at 6:08 that day and the ticket was issued at 6:14, so we just ask that you do pick a specific time period. But other than that, law department is on board, and typically we would ask that an ordinance change be referred to staff and brought back to committee. But like Director White said, if this is something everybody is in agreement on, this is a simple enough change that we can bring it back. We can bring it to council next week for first reading.
Okay, then, Alder Brett asked Attorney Mather one question. Could we make it, change the law to something like, or as specified by the Parks Department or something like that, and then hours could be posted, something like that? So instead of just picking one park, whether this comes up again with some other park, this gives us a little more leeway to, conditions perhaps?
Well, that is something I had not considered. And if that's the route that you would prefer to go, I would request that you refer it back to staff and we bring it back at the next Parks meeting.
Okay, well, I'm kind of thinking that way, but let's go with Alder Burnett and then Alder Steuer.
Yeah, I actually like that idea. One question I have for Director Ditchite is what sort of criminal activity or how many police calls, what sort of things are occurring over there that would require such a change? Because I know that park quite well. And, there could be some littering and things like that, but is there some pretty significant criminal activity back there?
If I may, this is my district and it's been a problem for a long time. It's significant activity and it's been a major problem. Major. Okay.
No, I don't disagree. I guess maybe I run with the routes whenever I go back there, but I would imagine it's a long driveway. So I guess my question then would be, where exactly are you going to put it, the gate, on the upper parking lot area or on that long stretch of road leading to the park? So minor details, I know, but I would tend to kind of agree with Alder Scannell then if it's his district and you're familiar with the criminal activity. I just wanted to make sure it's properly justified to.
It is. It is.
Gotcha.
But where would the gate go, Alder? You should become an Alder Director. Director Ditchite.
It would go fairly close to the main entrance off of Hurlbutt Road, so people wouldn't be able to drive down the main long driveway. We would block it off before that. And if we're going to select hours, I don't have a recommendation right now at the meeting because I would have to check with staff to see when we're able to lock and unlock and fit that into our rotation. But I would recommend doing summer hour and winter hours. Because with the daylight being significantly different between summer and winter, it really needs to have summer and winter hours versus just a standard approach for all year long. So, we could bring the proposed ordinance changes back to this committee with a proposed time. Might be the best option at this point. That way you can comment on the times and we can go from there.
I mean, when I go back there, and it's been many years now, but I would go late at night. When I would go there, it would be in the winter months, and that's because of the snow. When there's a lot of snow and it's a moonlit night, you can see rabbits. So I just want to make sure you're all aware of that. That's why I would go there. You could see a lot of rabbits late at night.
Are you hunting?
No, I am not. I can't speak to what I did in my youth, but at least since I've been an adult, I didn't get any trouble back there.
Okay.
And we do
anything else, Alder Burnett, before we go on to Alder Steuer?
No, that's it.
Okay, Alder Steuer?
Thank you, Chair. And you bring up a good point, Alder Scannell. It is your district, and depending how the election goes, that'll be my district.
Yep.
After the redistricting. And I've gone to that park many times over the years. We live pretty close to it. And like you said, there is concern about criminal activity. And I'm thinking even when you put up a fence or a gate there, people can still park nearby or walk in or whatever. And, it's such a big park. The road, and I've talked about it too, it's pretty beat up. It's not the best road to drive. It's a beautiful area, but I think as time goes on, I think we need to look at that park completely and try to find out, can we improve the road going in? Can we improve lighting? Whatever. But, the police have talked several times about some of the issues that have gone on. I'm not going to go into detail, but criminal activity. And, even if you do put the gate up, people can still walk in. So anyway, I just think it's a good matter of discussion that we're bringing some of this stuff up. And, and I think the hours listed would be good. Summer and winter, I would be all in favor of that. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Alder Gerlach?
You ready for a motion?
No, actually, because I did want to talk about the ordinance. If it could maybe be phrased, and then I think a motion to refer back to staff, something of, or as posted by the Parks Department or something like that, if you think something like that works, Dan, or something that would empower, Dan can sit down with you, something that empowers the parks to change the hours of any park at any time to fit the needs of the city, instead of just picking one park with specific hours, maybe something as posted or whatever, something in that along those lines. Does that seem possible, Attorney Mather and Director Dishite?
What I would recommend doing is just to direct staff to modify the ordinance to change the hours of Ken Ewers Park and bring it back to Parks Committee for review and approval. And
That's the motion I was going to make.
That way we can decide that with the law department and we can talk about best options.
I would agree with that.
You concur?
I concur.
And we have a motion by Alder Gerlach. Is there a second? Second by Alder Wery. I heard that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion is referred back to staff. Merry Christmas. A little late, but Merry Christmas. Are we ready for info? I lost you. I didn't get to see you. Are we ready for informational?
Yes, we should be ready.
Okey doke. Informational presentation of the St. John's Homeless Shelter Engage Program Year-End Summary. Take it away.
I will have James give a brief summary here, and then we'll pass it on to St. John's Homeless Shelter to give more information.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, yes. So this agenda item here, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of history just to remind the group here as we talk about this. Back in March 24th, 2021, that's when we originally brought this item with the St. John's proposal for the Engage program to the Parks Committee. And then it was approved back in March 30th, 2021. And the motion at the time was to approve the request by St. John's Homeless Shelter to run a homeless support program at St. John's Park starting April 30th, 2021 on a trial basis contingent upon the review of the program with the Parks Committee in July for possible continuation through November 1st, 2021. And then we brought it back to the Parks Committee on July 28th, 2021, and subsequently on the August 3rd, 2021 council meeting, it was approved for the Engage program to be continued through October until November 1st, 2021. So we were also asked at that time to provide a recap of the program at the Parks Committee meeting after the program ended. And we attached in your packet, you'll have a recap of the program. We worked with both the St. John Police Department and Community Economic Development to put together this proposal. And I believe Rob Frazier from St. John's is still here to elaborate and answer questions if you have any from him. If you don't have any from me at this present time, I'll hand it over to Rob.
I could real quick.
Yeah, Alder Burnett.
I see Ms. Murray from one of the local stations, I believe, is asking for permission for the media to record. I'm assuming that is okay. And I'm assuming she's asking for this issue.
I'm assuming this is a public meeting, so yep. I'm assuming there's Attorney Mather here. Is there any reason with
Hi,
I shouldn't be able
Alders.
to record.
Hi, I was actually not able to just press the record button right away, but Lindsay here, she emailed me, we got it squared up. So thank you guys
Okay.
for looking out.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worry.
Thank you all.
So any further questions for me before I turn it over to Rob?
No, thanks for, I'm good. Anybody else?
I do have one, Mr. Chairman.
Alder Weary?
Thanks. James, remind me, I forget, where did this proposal come from? Who brought it forward? Like, who got it on the agenda? Who asked for this?
So St. John's Homeless Shelter brought the proposal forward
Okay.
for review and action at the Parks Committee meetings that I specified in my
Perfect.
narrative.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, weren't the police also involved, James? PD?
It's in the summary, but this idea originally came from us. So the city has a homeless task force group that meets every month and discusses these dynamic challenges in our community. And out of one of those meetings came the idea of, what if we look at this as a proactive approach to some of the challenges that we've had at St. John's in the past. And through that meeting, that's when St. John's essentially developed a proposal that would engage the community into more of a program model to interact and build relationships with, these guests in order to hopefully make it better for the future.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for James before we move it on? Okay, you're up, sir. How did it go with St. John's?
Okay.
Happy with how the program worked out?
I think the program itself was good. I wouldn't say that it necessarily achieved every one of the expectations and the things that we really were trying to achieve, just because that time of the year, there's a lot of opportunities for guests to be involved in other things. It's all that kind of thing. So sometimes there's apathy that, creeps in, and they'd rather be just sitting in the park enjoying the sunshine. So from my perspective, I think that a lot of the things were enjoyed, and it was a learning for us. I would say that, from a staffing standpoint, it was just very difficult to maintain 8 hours, 9 hours a day of activities to keep guests engaged. And it ended up being a lot of time spent where our staff could have probably been involved in other case management, different things that they are normally responsible for. So I would say that was kind of a frustration part of it. Things that we've been talking about for improvements is to, there's groups, there's organizations, there's other people around the city that might have a better opportunity to serve the guests and, promote themselves or teach and lead, just a myriad of different types of organizations that could potentially, get their message out to the guests and provide services for the guests. So I guess what we're proposing is that we would have the opportunity to have more community engagement, not just St. John's staff park or St. John's staff involved in the park. So I guess that was the biggest learning or takeaway for us. It just became very time consuming and taking away from our staff's primary responsibilities.
Anybody have any questions? Alder Burnett, Alder Weary after Alder Burnett.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for that presentation and the report in the packet. One thing that I recall very vividly was that in the early stages when this was proposed, there were quite a few businesses that came forward with concerns about some of the activity that had been occurring there. And I think, quite frankly, candidly, I think that perhaps they were a little hesitant to voice their opposition publicly once it got to the point of the council approving it. At least that's just speculation perhaps, but that's just the feeling I have. What was your level of engagement or any dialogue with the businesses? Was there any businesses that approach you with concerns, loss of traffic, things like that?
Nothing around St. John's Park, and that's where it was at. So there's not a lot of what you would, consider retail business or anything like that. It's mostly law offices and churches and the schools. So I guess I would, I did not hear anything as the associate executive director. Lexi may have heard something, but there was really no complaints. We are actually able to kind of keep peace in the park, if you will. Because we had staff there all the times. There was no, shenanigans or anything else going on there while we were there and manned it.
Okay, and there were over 200 police calls, and so that's on average about a little over more than one a day, as a decimal, I guess. Were there any serious?
Alder Burnett, if I may help answer that first part, as the alder for the area.
Yeah.
I did at the beginning also receive a lot of concern from a number of the businesses around there, but I did hear shortly after that they thought it was going pretty good, and then I didn't hear anything after that. So I don't know if everything settled down and everything was fine, or if there was problems and they just didn't speak up or what. But from what I can tell, all the concerns that were raised seem to have been from the businesses taken care of. Residents were a little more, businesses I think were okay. So
yeah, thank you for that. But anyways, that I guess that would have been my question, and we can pull the police reports obviously, but was there anything outside of just common disturbances and verbal arguments, any other like higher stress criminal activity in the park that the council should be aware of?
Mark, did you want to say something, or?
Well, I can answer a little of that if Chair will let me.
Oh, certainly. You're
Yeah. Well, on our Protection and Policy Committee, some time ago, about a year ago, Alder Galvin had asked our committee to allow the police department to give reports on the activity going on a monthly, meeting wise, once a month, if nothing else. And Lieutenant Allen has all those figures. So,
right.
I think we could or should talk to the police department just to get that information. And I know Alder Burnett, you said there were over 200 calls. Some of them were very minor, but my understanding or feeling from those reports was that there are a handful of folks that, the police had to deal with more often than others. And some of them just were stubborn and wouldn't get help or do whatever, and they, the majority of the police time was with a few individuals, not a lot. So it wasn't like an overwhelming type of thing, but I don't know, maybe Mr. Frazier could answer that a little bit. I don't know, like you said, you can't do your casework if you're out patrolling and trying to make sure people are doing a good job. So anyway, that I would consider talking to Lieutenant Allen. Maybe he could get some of that information to us to kind of make a bigger picture for it, but it did help us quite a bit. Thank you.
Attorney Mather?
Yeah, I would add.
Just to follow up on Alder Stoyer's point, at Monday's Protection and Policy meeting, Lieutenant Allen did speak briefly, and the committee had additional questions for him. So I believe the plan is that at the next Protection and Policy meeting, there will actually be an item on the agenda for him to give a more detailed report. So if that's something you're interested in, he will be presenting at the meeting. You can ask him any questions that you may have for PD at that time that would be appropriately directed to him. Chair, before we move on, I do want to point out that we did have a question in the chat about whether our media representative could ask questions, and I wanted you to respond to that. If you
certainly, we can open up the floor shortly. Just wanted to just say, James, did you want to speak on something on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that Lieutenant Nate Allen did want to come tonight, but he had SWAT training until 7 p.m. So that's why we included his summary in the agenda packet. So you will see in the summary, similar to what Alder Stoyer said, most of the calls for service were coded as a disturbance, which was just from a simple argument or physical disturbance, but very few arrests were centered directly on criminal activity. And the majority of arrests were centered on warrant pickups or unpaid citations. So it is outlined in the summary, but he said he wanted me to tell you guys that feel more than free to reach out to him after this meeting and directly talk to him about anything specifically. He wanted me to let you guys know that.
I would like to I'm sorry.
I'll just piggyback on all that from what I heard as the alder of the district and having talked to PD on this a number of times. Most of there's been an uptick in calls since the program shut down, but many individuals still hung in the park and tried to camp out in the park. And the people were bringing food to them, trying to be, help out, but not helping out. So there's been a number of incidents like that have recently, but I believe that's starting to get all cleared up finally. And then Alder Burnett?
Yeah, just real quick, and I'd like to make a motion in a little bit to open up the floor.
Yep.
But I just want to make sure that my questioning is understood. It's just I'm very supportive of the program and what St. John's did. I like that they were connected. The reason why I'm kind of probing a little bit is that there's really no formal action that I'm aware of that we'll take tonight. It's more of a receive and place on file. But I want to have a 360-degree view of this. Obviously, the presenter, very appreciate his opinion and professional diligence here. But oftentimes when you listen to the community members or perhaps community members who are afraid to come forward with concerns that they witness, if we look at this program a few months from now for the next year, I want to make sure that we remember this conversation, because if it's not discussed now, then it could be forgotten. And I'd rather know now if there were any concerns from the greater neighborhood that perhaps people are a little hesitant to come forward because they support the homeless and they support homeless programming and they have a humanitarian heart like we all do, but also maybe they're a little sensitive in addressing or bringing forward the concerns. So that's all.
Yeah. And I can tell you, Alder, I have heard from some people, and there has been some concern, especially when they started to try to camp out and stuff. So there has been some neighborhoods concerned on that score.
Yeah, but I'll make a motion to open the floor.
Alder Weary first, or Alder Weary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fraser, for being here to answer questions and give the presentation. I was wondering, couldn't St. John's offer the programs and case management right out of the building you have right now? Why does it need to be in the park?
It did. We were doing both because some people didn't go to the park. So the buildings that we were in, we did it at both places. So it wasn't either or, it was at both.
So the park really was just kind of extra. You still could do the same outreach
Correct.
and the same programs at the facility. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And over the 6 months this past year, did you see attendance go up or down or stay the same at the park? Can you tell? Did you get back the numbers? Or?
I would say that the attendance was about the same. It was consistent. It fluctuated a little bit with weather, but nothing, still had the same amount of attendance each and every day.
Do you have the numbers, the attendance numbers, by day or by month,
I would
roughly?
say 35 to 40 was a general number for each and every day between our Summer Safe Sleep program and the program in the park.
Okay.
Alder Weary, Lieutenant Allen has a lot of that information too.
Okay, I understand. So people could be referred if there were signage or such, hey, these programs aren't in the park, but they're just in the building next door. That's something that could easily be done as well.
Yeah.
Alder, if I may, the reason it was extended to the park is because and people have the right to be there, and so they were congregating there, and there was nothing illegal about that, and it was hoped that this program would help make that a more positive experience, and it had some problems. It was a proactive approach, but it's not so much that they were sent there. The idea was to send people there for services, but that they were already there congregating there. Be proactive in making that a positive.
I understand that, but
Okay.
it also does kind of send a signal that this is kind of the homeless's daycare area. And a lot of people are shying away from that park now because it's not really a park. And I've heard that over and over. People will not go there now because of this, especially with the police calls. So I've really never been a fan of this, and I would like to see it discontinued. I'm just going to be honest. So do it elsewhere, but don't designate this park and just take it over for this use. That's otherwise just sign the park over. You don't need to have it anymore.
Well, we can discuss that later, but that can be part of the discussion. Any other, Alder Gerlach? And then we should maybe open the floor.
Sure, and this isn't terribly important. I just want to remind you, I was very much in favor of this program. I spoke very enthusiastically about giving it. You might remember I told the story of the drama student of mine and how he finally took off his jacket at the end of the semester, which for me was a big success. For him, that was success. And I said we'd have to measure success of this program in a similar way. It was very subjective and very personal. And because I spoke so enthusiastically in favor of it, I made a commitment to observe it. I did visit the park 13 times during the summer, and that was spread out from the beginning of the program to the end. I got permission from the police to take my little dog into the park after someone pointed out to me that you can't take a dog into a city park if there isn't a pathway going all the way through, because you can't take the dog off the pathway. And the police gave me permission to take my dog into the park because the people in the program, many of them enjoyed so much petting her and interacting with her. And, she was kind of a therapy dog throughout the summer. And so I'm just saying I was there, I saw with my own eyes. And if anybody wants to know what I observed, I'll be happy to tell you.
But I think you should share that. But did you want to do it now or after we open the floor?
Entirely up to whenever you want it, if you want it. We can open the floor. Would you like a motion to open the floor?
Sure.
Okay, I move that we open the floor.
Second? Second by Alder, motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Wery to open the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the floor is now open.
All right, well, the only question that I had for you guys was just talking about, after reviewing and summarizing how the program went, if you guys were interested in bringing it back again this spring into the fall winter season. And then on top of that, 11 covered this when it was being discussed amongst the Parks Committee before being voted into action. And one of the things that we had talked about was the waiver that was discussed about having, just making sure that there wasn't illegal activity going on in the park. I'm wondering, did you guys follow through with requiring that waiver for entry? And okay, so that did not go through. Can you guys give some
point of order, Alder Scannell, point of order. We need to have Mr. Frazier and the reporter, tell what their name is and address for the record.
Thank you.
We haven't done that.
Yeah, holy smokes of
All right.
Yes.
Never mind.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that very much. Please
All
state
right.
your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Kia Murray. And the address is going to be 787 Lombardi Avenue, and that's in Green Bay.
And Mr. Frazier's as well. So
Yeah,
that's
Mr.
it.
Frazier could also.
Sure, it's Rob Frazier, 1694 Jackson Hole Court, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Thank you both, and thank you, Alder Stoyer. And any other questions or comments? Ms. Murray?
No, actually, was Mr. Frazier able to ask questions and comments, though?
Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, absolutely. Just in our initial coverage, we had talked about the waiver that you guys were still in discussing phases, just to prevent illegal activity happening in St. John's Park. Mr. Scannell, though, said that ended up not going through. If you could provide some insight and some context as to why.
No, I have no idea why it didn't. I wasn't a part of it at that point in time.
That was a city decision. It's all Attorney Mather.
I just want to be clear. Our speakers from the public can direct questions and comments to the alders, but not to each other. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. No, that was the city decision, and we decided that that would not be appropriate or helpful, and it was voted down. It never became a part of the program from the beginning.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And as far as next year, I think a lot will depend on the service providers if they feel it would be helpful to go forward with this or not, and then we'll have a discussion. Apparently, some holders are already against it, and but as far as next year, I think that's a big question mark. I don't know if there's any point. It sounds like St. John's would like some other service providers to step up if we do another engagement program, and I think it depends on the service providers coming together with something. And Parks, our department, also Director Dishay.
Yes, I would just like to add to that, you're correct, Alder Scannell, that the game plan moving forward here is we will, over the next few months, we will work with the police department and St. John's and other entities throughout the city with similar type programs, and we'll figure out what worked and what didn't, and then we will come back with a revised proposal, hopefully addressing some of the issues that we had this previous year. And so we will discuss the new proposal at a future Parks Committee, and it'll be up to the Parks Committee and City Council to determine if they want to run it for another year with the slight modifications that we make to the program.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else care to? We never opened the floor. Did we open the floor for Mr. Frazier? Yeah, we did. So we never closed the floor. We never needed another motion to open the floor.
I don't think we ever had a motion.
Huh?
I don't think we had a motion for Mr. Frazier. You just asked him to speak.
Oh my God.
I think it was okay.
No, it's not.
Well, I move that we close the floor so we can be safe.
Yes, motion to close the floor. Well, is there anything else, Mr. Frazier? Any other questions for Mr. Frazier? Anything else, Mr. Frazier, care to add?
No, I'm excited to see where James and the group that we meet on a monthly basis, and I'm really kind of excited to see where it goes from our planning phase up until the time of implementation. We'll just wait and see and be excited.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions then before we close up? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I move that we close the floor.
Motion to close the floor by Alder Gerlach.
Second.
Second by Alder Brunette. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Okay, the floor is now closed.
So
Anything else, anyone?
Yeah, really all that we're looking for a motion on this is to receive and place
Receive and
on
place.
file.
Yeah,
I would think any
so
further
moved.
discussion could wait until we come forward with another proposal and so on. So just unless there's more questions, motion to receive and place on file by Alder Burnett,
Second?
second by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is received and placed on file. Are we ready for the next informational?
Yes.
Yes. Director's report and updates on recent activities of the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department. A wonderful report as always. Anything else, Dan?
I don't have anything additional to add to it other than what was spelled out in the report.
Any questions, comments from anyone? Good job as always. I'll take a motion to receive and place on file. Burnett?
Director Ditchai, if you could just kind of keep the committee apprised of Hina Straw this year with another season of Fat Tire Biking. There hasn't been a huge issue that has flared up in the district, my neighborhood anyway. So I just want to keep that on the radar for the committee.
We will do that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
So-
Moved by Alder Brunette, seconded by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that is received and placed on. I believe our next meeting is going to be January 26th, 2022. I believe we're done. Anybody want to make a motion? Oh, Alder, or just say waving goodbye? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, what's our instructions?
Okay, yeah, thanks everyone, great job. And Alder Weary, when are we gonna get together?
Let's do 6:10, a little over 10 minutes. I'll give time for everybody to get situated for the next one.
Thank you, 6:10. Very
That'll
good.
work. Yeah, can you hit stop?